Hey everybody, I'm Chris Jacobs and I want to welcome you to this very special USO event. We're calling it the USO Entertainment MVP series, and a very big hello to all of our troops who are watching across Southwest Asia. It is morning here in California, but it's a very good evening to you guys across 3 time zones out there in Southwest Asia. So we're so happy that you can join us for this first event, and we've got some very, very special guests. And I'm talking about, of course, Alex Pall and Drew Taggart, collectively known as Chainsmokers. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today.
What's up?
Hey, everybody.
Well, let's start with the obvious. We're having to do this event virtually because we are in the midst of the lockdown due to COVID-19. Where are you guys and how are you spending your time during the lockdown?
We are both in Los Angeles where we live. I am currently in my studio. That's why I've got the wavy lights above me. And I look like I'm on the show Euphoria. Also an added benefit. I feel Alex and I actually took off this year. We've been on the road for about 8 years now. And we decided it was finally time to take some time off. And this ended up happening coincidingly perfectly at the same time with our time. So I feel a little guilty to say, we're kind of doing exactly what we planned on doing at this time, which is being in the studio and being creative and taking some time to really think about what we want Chainsmokers 4, which will be our next album, to be.
Yeah, and I'm just in my house. We actually live like 5 minutes apart from each other, so we're not too far, but more than 6 feet. And I got my dog in the background. This is my kitchen.
Have you guys been able to get together and make some music during this time? I mean, obviously respecting the social distancing guidelines, but have you guys actually been able to get together in the same space?
Yeah, I mean, we're like we keep ourselves isolated, and I mean, we've been together well before this thing started, and when it started, we were like still kind of traveling. In fact, we were like coming back from Saudi, probably the last people in the U.S. to make it back from Saudi Arabia that aren't in the military. We had a show there like as this whole thing was going down, but yeah, we have a studio that we use that we meet up at. But it's tough, like Drew can speak to it too, but like creativity is something that isn't like a day job, so it's kind of like, oh, do you want to work at night? Do you want to work in the day? It always kind of changes and stuff, but we've still gotten together. We're down to risk our lives for each other.
It's whenever the creativity hits you, that's when it's time to get to work.
Exactly.
Well, you mentioned, Drew, that you guys have kind of shut it down until Chainsmokers 4 comes out, and what I thought was a really interesting move, I follow you guys on Instagram. You guys have 8 million followers on Instagram, and you removed all content except for a notification saying, hey, we're taking some time off from social media until Chainsmokers 4 comes out. What was the motivation between taking everything down, not letting your social media followers kind of, go back over what you guys have posted in the past?
Well, Chainsmokers 4 is going to be, we want it to be a really big moment for us. And we've been, since we put out, I don't know how familiar everybody is out there with our music, but we had like a string of pretty big songs, starting with this song called Roses. And then we put out a song called Don't Let Me Down. And then we put out a song called Closer in Paris and something just like this. And we kind of like, they were all in a row, and we never worked in a cycle, which most artists do, which is where they'll put out an album, they'll go on tour, and then they'll take time off and they'll regroup, and they'll do it again. But they'll take like a year or 2 years or 3 years even between albums. And we've never went off cycle. We just kept kind of putting out one song at a time, and it created this constant touring, constant release of music, which was super fun, and it went on for about 8 years, and we're very lucky. And now we want to stop and take some time and kind of go the more traditional route and really think about what the next step of our career is going to look like, how we want to tour it, what it's going to sound like. And I think if you are, for what we're trying to accomplish, if we are constantly posting to social media about like what we're up to, it's like we never really go away, and we want to give people a chance to like I don't want to say like forget about us, but like miss us maybe a little bit. And when we come back, you know, I feel like it will feel a lot more intentional if you go away for a while.
Yeah. And
It's
also
like
just
the tease. If you remove everything and then, you know, if nothing's there, and then when you do come back, people are really going to be interested in seeing what you guys come back.
And also if you look, I mean, I don't know like how many people watching right now are like true Chainsmoker fans and follow us and stuff, but like there was some embarrassing stuff in there. I mean, it's like 8 or 9 years of photos of Drew and I from the genesis of this. So like as we had our, you know, we had one of our assistants go in and kind of delete everything. She was sending us ones. She's like, "Is this seriously on your profile still?" And it was, you know, and it was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe someone could just look that up still." So
the internet is forever.
Yeah, kind of, and it's still probably, you know, someone still got it, obviously, but it's like at least it's not like on our page exclusively. So it's like a fresh start, you know.
Well, you guys talk about how long you guys have been together. It's since 2012, is that right? Is when you guys initially started working
That sounds
together?
right, yeah.
And how did you guys first get together?
Yeah, I mean, or you can go, Drew.
The origin story. Yeah. Sure. Well, Alex actually started Chainsmokers with another kid, and they were DJing at clubs around New York City, and the other kid decided he wanted to go and do his own solo thing. And Alex was like, well, we created this whole brand around New York City. We're DJing a few nights a week, making good money. Dance music was really just starting to become a big thing. This is like when Avicii and Skrillex and Swedish House Mafia and Calvin Harris, like a lot of these artists are household names now, but like they were just all starting out. And Alex was like a huge fan of the scene and was like, I want to, you know, be part of this and bring someone in who's also into it. And we met by chance. I was producing on my own, writing songs, producing them. I really wanted to be a DJ. I didn't have any gigs. And I was getting booked on like opening for bigger DJs at like, you know, a couple times, not really at all. And our manager, Adam, you know, his intern was booking me on gigs and he was managing Alex and the Chainsmokers. And he was like, you know, when this other kid left, he was like, you two should meet. Drew's been producing and, you know, doesn't have any gigs. Alex is like, wants to be get into the EDM scene and has all these DJ gigs and is super experienced. So we kind of like met up and I remember we met one night at this restaurant and the next day I went to his apartment and we just started making music. And then I lived in Maine, or that's where I grew up. So I would take the $13 Bolt bus down from Boston to Maine, you know, once every week. And I'd crash at a friend's house for 3 days and I'd just go to his apartment and we make records all day. And that's how the whole thing started.
And that was in New York City?
That was in New York City, yeah.
And did you guys hit it off right away? Did you know you had something special right in that first couple sessions together?
I think
I don't know.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're determined. I think that's like a better way to put it. To figure out how to make this happen. You know, I don't think I think for us it was like slow little bits of progress, which actually at the time felt massive. You know, whether that was like getting a show that was a little bigger than the last, or, you know, just seeing a crowd respond to a remix you made, or, you know, seeing a song on SoundCloud get a couple thousand extra plays than the last one. And like all of those things kind of just kept pushing us forward and, you know, and kept us inspired. Because I mean, in the beginning, you're kind of just like, everything's exciting, you know, but also you feel like you're so far away from, you know, the guys that you talked about before who were like at the peak of the game. You know, it seems like, how the hell do we get there? But I remember playing like this festival in Atlanta called Tomorrow World. We like opened up a stage that was like in the middle of the woods, literally, at the beginning of the morning. But the opportunity felt like such a big deal to us. And it was a big deal. And, you know, the show was amazing. And while we were literally on the complete opposite spectrum of the guys that we admired, like they were playing at the last slot on the biggest stage of the day, you know, it was just like, hey, we're making progress. At least we're on the flyer.
Well, it's been an amazing 8 years for you guys so far, and you've had some incredible collaborations too. You know, Halsey, obviously, Coldplay, 5 Seconds of Summer, Daya. I have a question from Taylor, and she wants to know who your favorite guest artist was, and also how do you find the artists that you want to collaborate with?
I'd say there's no like one answer to that question. We always try to be political when we talk about our favorite, but I don't know. We worked with the Florida Georgia line, and we we really like those guys because they're like the country version of us. They're just easygoing guys that are just really enjoying the situation that they found themselves in, you know, that song didn't end up becoming one of our bigger songs, but you know, as people, we've had a really good time hanging with them. I mean, we've like collabed with some really like amazing people, and you know, it's been really cool to do, you know, to do Closer with Halsey because that song was at the beginning of both of our careers, and we've gone off to do very big, but also very different things, and it's just been cool to like kind of come up with someone like that, and you know, you run into each other every now and then, and just like you get to catch up on what each other's adventure has been. And then you have like people like Chris Martin, which do you think we never thought we'd be in the studio with someone like Coldplay?
Yeah.
And that was incredible just to, you know, every time we are in the studio with all these artists, it's like, you know, we feel like we're imposters, you know, and we're there like hoping that they don't realize that we're just still trying to figure out what we're doing. And we try to learn from them too, and just you get insight into all these different people's creative process. And you know, like the Coldplay song, we met and wrote a song that didn't really like, that was cool, and then nothing really happened, and then literally as we were in Malibu, so it takes like 30 minutes to get an Uber back, you know, back to LA. While we were waiting for our Uber, we pulled up this session, and Chris was like, this is what we have to do. And that session, it was basically like a few chords and some drums, and he was like, this is what we're going to do. We canceled the Uber, and that song ended up becoming something just like this, which is one of our biggest songs of all time.
It's so cool too, because it's a really great mix of your style as the Chainsmokers and Chris and Coldplay style together. I mean, you really just hit the nail on the head. I want to remind everybody who's watching that you can participate. Type your questions into the Q&A section, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. Hue just wants to say hi, guys. He's currently stuck on deployment. He wants to say he loves you guys. Let's remind everybody too that you can follow your local USO center page for all sorts of information on these upcoming events. And once again, we're talking to Alex Pall and Drew Taggart of Chainsmokers, obviously. I know you guys have also started a production company, which is called Kick the Habit Productions, I believe, and you guys already have a movie and a television show in development. Is that right?
Yeah, we got a couple things in development. It's really exciting. We started about 2 years ago, and you know, we've always just had a real big passion for TV and film, but we didn't really understand the process of that whole world. So one of our best friends, who is we trust and admire for his hard work, came to us and pitched us this plan to start a production company for us. And we were like, I think hesitant a little bit at first, just because we didn't really understand the scope of what something like this means. But obviously, we're really excited about the idea. And now a couple of years later, we've got, a bunch of projects in development, a film, 2 TV shows, and so a lot of other things. But it's exciting because it's kind of like, we get inspired by a lot of TV and film for our music, and we can kind of merge the two together, and it's created this really interesting environment where we can score movies or just lend advice and read scripts and create television and film about things that we're super passionate about. And so it's like everyone's really got to be on their A game to make a film or TV show happen, which is exciting because when something great happens, it means that everyone really worked together and something truly special kind of came from it.
Well, you guys are kind of following the trend and setting the trend, I guess, of expanding out into other genres besides just music, getting into visual productions as well. And that actually leads to this great question from Kadej, who says, who are your biggest inspirations, not just musically, but in general? So I assume you guys are being inspired by other genres of entertainment as well.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we're big film and TV fans. That's why it was so exciting to kind of have the opportunity to delve into that space. Me personally, I'm a huge Wes Anderson fan. I love the worlds that he creates in his films. I don't know how I would love to create something like his, but that's, we're at baby steps right now, just trying to get things made. But that's a huge inspiration for me, film wise. like classic Guy Ritchie movies are a huge thing that Alex and I like. Just like Snatch and Lock, Stock and you know, all of those films were like so formative to like kind of like what I like in film today. So yeah, those are two.
Probably Tarantino also in that kind of same vein.
I was gonna say Tarantino, but like, who doesn't love Tarantino?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of obvious. Yeah. We have another question from Charlie from Qatar, and she's asking, with everything going on now, the world can use some positive stories. So what was something difficult that you guys went through together as a band, and how did you overcome it?
I mean, the most obvious one that comes to mind is, we put out this kind of novelty record when we basically like 2 years after we got together, and it was supposed to be like a joke, and it turned into this big single around the world, and it was kind of like a crazy moment for us because it didn't really represent who we were as artists, yet like this is what the world knew us as. And we got signed to like a label and got all these exciting things that any artist would be really stoked about to happen. But like with that signing, we were kind of like, all right, well, we don't want to be that artist, so let's use this opportunity to show the world who we really are and what the music is that we want to make. And literally I remember like coming into a meeting like all stoked to be like, check out all this stuff we've been working on. This is the direction we want to go. I think we had Roses potentially at that time. And I remember going to the meeting, and it was like our manager and our lawyer and everyone. And they were like, so we got a call from the label and they want to drop you guys. And it was like the quickest 180 moment in my life, maybe, other than like maybe going to a girlfriend's house and thinking you're going to have a fun night and just getting dumped. You know what I mean? It's kind of the same experience. And it was super heartbreaking because it was like, wow, it was like a business decision on their end, but it felt like a bunch of people saying, we don't believe in you and what you guys are doing. And luckily our team believed in us and we believed in ourselves, and we, doubled down and didn't stop working our asses off. And that's when we put Roses out shortly thereafter. I remember playing, actually, we played them Roses, the label that dropped us, and they were like, cool, whatever. And it was just a great moment because it wasn't, I don't think the moment, maybe a little bit of spite was like, I told you so, but mostly it was just like a really amazing thing to like get dropped by a label and then so quickly picked up by another, kind of just off the merit of like your music. I mean, usually those things don't work out that way. So like we always explain to people that like we've had like 3 or 4 different artistic careers in our time together, with lots of highs and lows. But that was kind of a story for us of like, it felt like rock bottom, and like there were, and that was the end of this whole thing that we worked so hard on. And we just kind of turned lemons into lemonade and got to work. And, we're actually friends with the guy who dropped us from that label, and it's like a good, cool moment. I mean, I respect him, a lot. He does a lot of great things. And he was just like, biggest mistake I ever made. So it's,
who picks up the check when you guys go to dinner?
Well, I guess luckily he didn't, neither of us, someone else did. And in those cases, but I would totally take him for sure. Yeah.
That actually is a perfect segue into the next question we have. And this is from Greg Cicenti. I hope I'm pronouncing his last name right. And he wants to know how you guys stay so humble and grounded after garnering such worldwide attention.
Can you put my slippers on? Thank you. Sorry. Drew, you want to answer?
Sure. Well, thank you for saying that. I think humility is the best compliment you can get. And, Alex and I have, I don't know. I mean, I don't think we've ever figured to be any other type of way than the way that we are now. I mean, we spend a lot of time with, we're kind of the homies. I mean, like, I feel like I do see people get carried away with who they become. And I find it kind of crazy. And I don't think there's so much like hard work put in by so many different people, and not even people just on your team, but like people at radio and at like the streaming platforms. And there are people that like, so many people that believe in you, that like, and your whole, like our whole live touring show, we employ like 100 people. There's so many people working to make Chainsmokers what it is. I think it'd be pretty ridiculous to think that, it's just to take credit for all of it, which I feel like would be the opposite of being humble.
All right. I have to ask this question because since everyone's been locked down, Netflix viewership, I'm sure, is up about 15 million%. Anna Gallagher wants to know, have you guys seen Tiger King, and what's your take?
Yeah, I'm waiting for this next new episode. I definitely think Carol Baskin killed her husband. That's what she's wondering. And and I don't know. That was a wild show. It's hard to like put into sense what I walked away with as a human being from it. But I mean, it's just nuts to think that those places exist. To me, the craziest thing was that like we have more tigers in the U.S. than anywhere in the rest of the world.
There's more in captivity than there are in the wild. That's what shocked me the most. Yeah.
I mean, it looks like based on the map they had in that show, you could like close your eyes in the Midwest and kind of like walk into a tiger and like there's like a 60-minute chance to walk into a tiger enclosure. But it was crazy. I mean, like the Dr. whatever his name was, like what a weird cult leader type guy. Like gets weird vibes going on. Then you got Joe Carroll who's like preaching one thing, but then like kind of just has running the same operation. Yeah. But they all seem pretty.
She's just better at marketing.
Yeah, just way better at marketing. Yeah. And that was a fun show. I mean, it's great when those things can happen right now because it kind of I feel like collectively brings everyone together. You can like talk to like my mom's seen that show. Like it's kind of like a baseline for conversation. But yeah.
So there's talk that they may actually do a drama about Joe Exotic, and it's been a fun game recently to name who you think should play Joe Exotic, and I know the name Margot Robbie has been thrown into the ring too, which would be absolutely hilarious if she played Joe Exotic.
Danny McBride's got to play Joe Exotic, right?
Who does?
Danny McBride.
Oh, that would be fantastic too.
By the way, there's really funny. So there's like, the boyfriend he ends the show with, I forgot his name. But there's like a photo of them where they're like holding each other and the boyfriend is wearing Chainsmoker merch. And I was like, and so many people sent it to me and I was like, get the out of here. Like they're like, you know what I mean? Like I've never seen anyone wearing our merch. And there he is, Joe Exotic's boyfriend wearing Chainsmoker merch.
Shirt is now sold out everywhere. You can't get it.
Yeah,
it's a benchmark moment for you guys, I'm sure.
So talk about highlights in career.
We finally made it.
So Pavan would like to know what you guys do with your time when you're not making music. What are some of your hobbies?
This one always takes me a while to think about because pretty much all we do is do shows and make music, but we've recently been playing Call of Duty like the rest of the world. Can you imagine like Call of Duty just released like their new game like right when this whole thing happens? Like I feel like they planned this whole thing.
Timing is everything.
Yeah, this game right here, highly recommend Monopoly Deal. It's awesome.
Alex has played like 150 games of Monopoly Deal since we've been in quarantine.
It's so funny. Now, okay.
But yeah, I mean, like, I think we're lucky. Drew just got a dog. I have a dog. Like, you can't really leave your house for much, but you can leave your house for exercise and stuff. So, going to run with your dog or a walk and stuff like that is always nice.
A lot of dog walks, yeah. And is that your dog on the wall behind you there?
That's Mushu right there.
That's great.
So I keep that in honor of Mushu up on the wall there. She's at the park right now, though. Otherwise I'd have her come join in frame.
And Drew, do you have a dog also?
Yeah, I got a Rottweiler a couple weeks ago, and he's comes back for 1 day a week, and he's been at puppy camp because he was a demon and he needs to be trained, and I don't know how to do that.
Well, Jonathan wants to check in and say hi. He's in Kandahar. Jenny would like to know, and she's in Abu Dhabi, when did you realize that you were getting into the big leagues of the music world? Was it a slow progression, or did you guys one day look at each other and go, hey, can you believe this? I think we're big time.
It's funny. I feel like, Drew could have a better answer to this. My quick answer is like, you go to these award shows, which are like super awkward, especially if you've never gone to one before, which we hadn't. And you're sitting there and you're seeing all these people that you are inspired by or admired or just see on television that are super famous, like within feet of you, and they're all saying what's up to each other and they all know each other and you don't know anyone and they don't really know you either. And then in that moment, that's not when you realize you're in the big leagues. That's just you realize you're like in the same house that they're all in. but then you also realize how ridiculous you feel to be there. And I hate those moments because it's like, you like see, Chance the Rapper or Jay-Z or someone sitting a couple rows up, and you're like, oh my God, all I've done my whole life is listen to this guy's music. I want to go say hi. But then I'm like, what if he just is like, nah, and then like crushes my whole spirit, and 15 years of listening to Jay-Z just out the window. So
the other thing about award shows is how like they pan and like they like between performances or during performances they like clip to like stars in the audience or whatever. We've been like victim of like just having a conversation or like they've cut to it and we're like saying something, and like whatever artist was performing and we were talking, their fans like come after us online, and we're like we could have been like, yo, Alex, this is such an amazing performance, and they're like, you were dissing them, you weren't paying attention to their performance, and you're like, what did I
do? So now when we sit there, we're always like, no matter what.
Hey, well, you started your career doing remixes of other people's works, and now there's actually artists who are doing remixes of Chainsmokers songs. Talk about what that feels like and how heady of an experience that is.
It's amazing. We would, when I was kind of talking earlier about Alex and I would like meet up in New York City and just work all day every day, until we knew what we wanted our Chainsmokers sound to be. We would find other artists that had songs that we loved, and we would make our own versions of them, and we actually like started touring off of those remixes before we had any actual Chainsmokers original singles. And so we know like a lot of other kids are in that phase of their career, and it's really cool to see kids come up and get a chance to like do what we had a chance to do with other artists with our music. And it's actually can be kind of frustrating sometimes, because sometimes they make a better version of your song, and then you're like, we should have just hired this kid to help us with this record in the beginning. But you also get other versions that we do 50 shows a year in Vegas. We do a ton of big dance festivals, and then we do our arenas and our own type of shows that are less dance and less DJ. So it's really nice for the Vegas nights and the big EDM festivals to have these remixes of our songs that are really good for those scenarios that aren't necessarily the Chainsmokers sound.
Gage in Afghanistan would like to tell you guys that she's a big fan of yours for years and noticed how passionate you guys are about the USO. How did you come to find out about the USO, and what keeps you connected to the USO?
Yeah, I feel like the USO does a great job of, I don't want to know if advertising is the right word, but having a presence all over the place. And, it seemed like the obvious way to kind of give back and get through to all you guys, the troops. And, it's funny. My grandfather was a medic in the British Royal Army, but no immediate family members of mine, serve in the military. And nevertheless, I always felt like I had this strong connection to all the people that were serving. And I just always feel like you guys are kind of underappreciated in a lot of ways. And I wanted, it was important for us when people started coming to us and asking what are important things to you in terms of charities. And Chris Martin was just like, whatever you do, don't pick 1,000 things. Pick 2 things that are really important to you. And Drew's parents are, mom's a teacher and his sister's a teacher. So education's always been something important to us, and the military has always been important to us. Whether it's the veterans or you guys serving abroad right now, I just feel like there's a lot more that we can do for you guys to, make your way of life better and quality of life better, because you give so much in return to us, to live our lives and travel around the world and have fun and make music. So it seemed only right. And I think there's a lot more we want to do. So we'll see.
All right, we've got Logan from Al Assad checking in. This is kind of a funny question. He asks, of all your songs, which one is your favorite and why is it Sick Boy?
Actually, Sick Boy is one of my favorites because I don't know if you guys have listened to our albums or paid attention to just kind of what we've been going through this whole journey. It's been a roller coaster of emotions, and they haven't always been highs. And I personally was going through a pretty dark time before I wrote a lot of songs on that album, and that song was very cathartic for me. And I was able to say a lot of things about the way that I felt that we were unable to say in interviews or on social media. And so I'm really glad that you connected with that song, because it's very important to us. But there are a ton of others, you know, like, I mean, there's a lot of songs, and I hate to say Closer because it's our biggest song, but, you know, every line in that song is kind of like, it was one of the first songs that we wrote the lyrics to, and every line in that song is like something from my experience going to college. And, you know, I went to a very like affluent school that I couldn't afford, and I was surrounded by a bunch of kids that weren't that were. It was like culture shock for me. You know, I didn't come from money, and this was, I went to Syracuse, which every rich kid from New York City and Long Island Center, you know, was there, and I had this crazy experience, and every line was so personal to me and my experience there in that song. To see other people connect with it was really an incredible feeling.
I got to say, either Paris or Don't Let Me Down is my personal favorite. So
great choices.
Throwing that in there. All right, you guys have teased Chainsmokers 4 on your social media, and Scott from Saudi Arabia wants to know when we can expect Chainsmokers 4 to be released. Do you guys have a timeline right now?
A moving timeline. You know, obviously this has disrupted everybody's release plan. I mean, we were hoping to put stuff out at the beginning of next year. But we're really going to wait until the music's ready and the project's ready and the aesthetic is ready, and we want to come out strong. But now, like Alex was saying, a lot of people are pushing projects. So I feel like they're all going to bottleneck kind of when, you know, when this thing's over and everyone can put tons of stuff out. Everyone's going to, you know, people that were planning on releasing, and let's say this ends in the fall, you know, you're going to have everyone that wants to release that was planning on releasing in the fall anyway. And then you have all these people that are planning on releasing the spring and the summer, like trying to put out projects at the same time. And it's going to be a battle for attention. And I think that's inevitably going to push our project back even further, which I think ultimately will give us more time to make sure that we come back with something great. But yeah, it's really, we're trying to ride the wave of this thing.
Here's a little preview. Everyone for a second there was like, oh.
We thought we had a world exclusive here, and you come up with Baby Shark. That was well played, Alex. Well played. Sure, I mean, that was good.
Sorry, guys.
You know, talk a little bit about your process. I've got several questions here that ask about your process of creating a song. What do you start with? Do you start with the riff? Do you start with the lyrics? What point do you guys get together on it, and how do you do it?
The further we get into our career, the less I have an answer for that question, just because it's happened so many different ways. Recently, we'll just hang out, and like during the day, when it's kind of like working hours, which I know we don't have a traditional job, but when we have a lot of people on our team that are on working hours, and they're always asking us questions during the day. So we'll make beats and like do more like technical producery stuff. And then at night when everyone's asleep, we'll go back in the studio and drink a bottle of wine or some beers and just relax and just kind of freestyle all of the thoughts from the day over those songs. And then hopefully we come up with something that's memorable. And then we write lyrics to that. We you know, I have a notepad full of things that I want to talk about. And, you know, I think it's the best thing to do is kind of stream of consciousness over a song. I feel like that's how you get the most musical results, instead of like writing things down and having them fit into lines, which we have done successfully and unsuccessfully before. But yeah, I think the best thing to do in terms of lyrics is just to have all your thoughts as they come to you while you're watching movies, while you're listening to other music, while you're having conversations with people. And then, you know, you read over them, and then at night when you're a little bit loose, you rattle it off, and hopefully it makes sense.
David would like to know what your craziest experience with a fan has been.
I thought did we have a good one recently on tour?
Well, there was one on tour where didn't we invite someone to? We invited. We're always doing like weird activation stuff with our fans, like flying them to Vegas. We started this thing called what do we call our
Foundation?
The Broken Heart Foundation.
Broken Heart Foundation, yeah.
Yeah, we started this foundation so we play, like I said, 50 shows a year at the Wynn at Excess in Vegas. And Alex and I started this thing called the Broken Hearts Foundations, where our fans can submit stories about how someone broke their heart and like cheated on them or dumped them out of nowhere, and they enter themselves in a competition. Whoever has the craziest story, we fly them to Vegas and we take them to dinner and we show them, and we would go partying with them and we show them like the best night in Vegas. So that's been a pretty fun thing.
It was really funny because these girls came that were, you know, they were all really sweet, and we were like, so what's up? And she was like, I'm not really a fan of your guys' music. We're like, dope. Well, we just flew you here to Vegas. And we're like, have you ever been here before? She was like, I was here like a week ago for Drake's show. And we're like, what the like we've been bamboozled. And she was like, and also like, I just got back together with the guy. And we're like, what? Like, I was like, how? There were so many entries and we chose you. And, but then the whole time we were just like, we heard the story, like we heard her out. We're like, so why did you break up? Da-da-da. And we're like, nah, this guy's got to go. He's no good for you. He sounds like a dirtbag. So we had like, I forgot the chant, but it was like, no, he's got to go or something. And like, we had the whole club chanting it. Like, and this is like 5,000 people. And she ended up having a really good time. And we were like, kind of just like, you know, at the end of the night, we fly back at like 5 a.m. and they went off back to their lives. And I was like, well, I have no idea how that ended. But then they wrote us like a week later and she was like, hey, I just want to say thank you so much for that experience. Like, I know I was kind of weird in the beginning of the night. But after like hearing you guys out and having such a fun night with you all, I decided that I am going to break up with him and I'm better off on my own. And we were like, woo! Broken Hearts Foundation wins at last.
Success.
Yeah. So
perseverance.
we got to do another.
You guys do have amazing relationships with your fans. In fact, you guys heard a cover of one of your songs by a piano player and you ended up taking him out on tour with you. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. This guy, Tony, was doing piano covers of our records, and we heard it and we needed a piano player for our band. So we brought him on tour, but even more so our drummer, Matt McGuire, which you guys probably know if you guys are actual fans. You know, he's been with us for 3 years. On that same tour, we saw him doing a drum cover of Don't Let Me Down, and he seemed to be the best drummer either of us had ever seen. And we emailed him, and he was living in Brisbane, Australia, and he was like, sure, I'll drop everything and just come and be in your band. And he's been in our band for 3 years now, which is crazy. And he's gone from just being our drummer to being our show designer and our musical director, and a lot of the, you know, the past tour productions that we've been able to bring into arenas, especially like this last fall. You know, he was a huge pivotal part in making those shows come to life. So that really worked out for us.
Yeah, I guess it's like those YouTube videos everyone does don't fall on deaf ears all the time, as stupid as some of them have been.
Yeah.
keep reaching out to you guys. You never know what can happen.
Yeah.
Hey, let me finish up with this question. Again, getting back to the fact that you guys have collabed with so many amazing artists. Who's on your bucket list of who you want to work with?
I'd love to work with Kid Cudi, just because he's been like a hero of mine. Phoenix is my favorite band. Death Cab for Cutie. Kind of weird references. Like, I don't know if you guys would expect those, but that's kind of the stuff that we listen to.
That's really cool. Yeah, and Death Cab for Cutie, that's a deep cut right there.
Yeah.
That's cool. You guys seem to have very wide-ranging musical tastes and influences too, which is very cool. Awesome, man. Well, we're going to wrap this up right now, but I do want to try to at least acknowledge some people who submitted questions that I didn't get to. So I'd like to say hello to Hazel, to Ashlyn, to Jenny, to Joanna, Danielle, Greg, Jonathan, Nicholas, Karsten, Dylan. Thank you guys so much.
Is that you, Greg?
and of course, a huge thank you to both Alex and Drew, the Chainsmokers. You guys are so cool. This has been a really great experience. Oh, yeah. And thank you so much for your support of the USO. I'll give you guys each a minute or so to say whatever you'd like to say to not only the troops watching, but to all of our servicemen and women.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to say I hope all of you guys stay strong and safe out there. It's crazy times we're living in right now, but you guys are in our hearts, and I know you're in a lot of hearts of the people back here in the U.S. we're going to continue to try and find ways to give back to you guys and bring you great experiences. If you guys ever want to come to Vegas, just slide into those DMs. We'll take good care of you. I beat a couple Army Rangers in a push-up contest a couple weeks ago. You know, and we just really admire and have the most respect for you guys, for everything you guys are doing, and, you know, keep it up.
Well put, Alex. Thank you, guys. Yeah.
All right, guys. Thank you. You guys stay safe during this time, and all of your fans, including me, are really looking forward to the Chainsmokers 4 coming out whenever you guys plan to release it.
Hell yeah.
All right, you guys. Many thanks again.
Yeah.
Take it easy.
Take care, everybody.
All right. That wraps up our first installment of the USO Entertainment MVP series. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We so appreciate your service. From the bottom of all of our hearts, thank you for keeping us safe. And we'll see you right back here for the next one.